Today is Thursday, June 25th, the first day of our international symposium about digital transformation and the future of work. Thank you for joining us. With the participation of very special guests, we're going to talk about the future of disruptive technology and its role in shaping the post-COVID-19 economy. That's what people call the new normal. Before moving with our guests, and I would like to acknowledge that this idea of a new normal or a post-COVID-19 era strikes me as a bold concept, to say the least. It is not that we won't have a post-COVID era from a medical perspective. On the contrary, the Oxford AstraZeneca consortium vaccine, for example, is already in phase 3, which enroll large populations to nail down dose-dependent effects. The Chinese casino is about to close phase 2B, which is security related, and many others follow behind. The thing is that the pandemic is likely to have different consequences around the world. In that regard, we're not heading for one new normal or one post-COVID economy, but multiple. Surveys conducted by the research institute Locomotiva in Brazil revealed that consumption has fallen more dramatically and that companies are likely to face bankruptcy in the years to come. This scenario is likely to increase inequality and social disturbance and apply to many other developing countries. In the United States, this period has also been very wacky. The S&P 500 had its best performing month in 80 years in April 2020, which was a terrible month for the economy. That wasn't an isolated event. What we see is a detachment between Wall Street and Main Street, which is likely to sign a bubble, and all bubbles at one point burst. The situation has also created new champions. For instance, the base user of Zoom, the video conferencing app, increased from 10 million to 100 million between the end of 2019 and March 2020. By mid-May of this year, the company was worth more than 7 times the sum value of all airlines in the world. More than ever, countries and companies that dominate digital technologies will take a lead in the economic landscape. Meanwhile, a matter of consideration is that new waves of COVID-19 might reach different parts of the world anytime soon, or even worse, might already be in place. Will the vaccine be widely available in time to block new waves of social, psychological, and economic disaster? It's too early to know. This is the background for the talks we're going to have today. Our first guest is Moisés Hesenhorn. He's the head of Innovation Lab of the Votorantim Bank and a director at the same institution. Next, we're going to talk with Fabrício Pezzenti, a pioneer in the tech space, chairman and CEO at Thrive. Finally, we will hear from Nuno Martines, a Portuguese neuroscientist and futurist from the University of California at Berkeley. Hello, Moisés. Thank you for joining us. My first question to you is, what are the hottest topics in finance and banking currently in the world affected by COVID-19?
I think the first thing is a wave that's probably coming to its end, which is the first wave that pretty much explored new UX, new usability, or improved usability for customers, right? People had been used to banking relationships with, we can call them old school or legacy banks, physical world connections. So the first wave of fintechs, right? Companies that explore technology services with finance. Pretty much what they did was improve the quality of usability, the quality of the customer experience there. Moving from there, what we are seeing now is people that are actually able to use data in a different way. That's a very interesting frontier actually to be explored. We see a lot of people that have to deal with GDPR concerns, so with privacy protection concerns, but also at the same time use your information to provide you with a better customer service or with better credit scoring or with just an overall better lifetime analysis of you as a customer. I think this is a very exciting frontier. This is we're still talking about the typical banking relationships. One big thing that's been in discussion is virtual assets, virtual coins, new coins, stable coins. All this discussion is something that it's at its very beginning, at its inception. There's a lot to be done and to be explored in that sense. We're very excited to understand what's going to happen now. Honestly, this is something that has so much to be developed that at this point, it's even hard to make predictions on what could happen there, right? But definitely new coins, stable coins, digital means of money transfer are definitely something people are interested in doing and interested in developing right now.
Great. Do you think that banks are becoming more like startups, or do they maintain their traditional frame? And how should a student approach one if interested in being hired?
Well, some of the trends we see today are actually they're here, right? And they will be here. It's not fashion, and people are not adapting for short term. So when you talk about banks and also our corporations in general, right, working as startups, that's definitely something people have been trying to do for a while. And I think this is going to keep on because the world has become less formal. Some of the walls and the barriers have gone down. So this is here, at least for the foreseeable future, right? This is here to stay, right? This has made it smart. A student looking into going into this industry, into this very complex and fascinating industry, right? I think there's still the old school approach still works a lot, which is doing a lot of research, understanding what you're talking about, how the value chain actually works, who concentrates most of the margins, what are the products that work better, what are the products that have most room for attack. I think this is something had I been a student right now, I would invest my time in, understanding the actual value chain, understanding who other players and where there's money to be made, and talk to as many people as possible, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Traditionally, engineers have been selected for many strategic positions in banks. On one hand, this trend has increased due to technology, whereas on the other hand, we never spoke so much about the importance of soft skills. What is your opinion about that?
Interesting point. I would go for the in between solution, of course, which is combination. But if you ask me, we're still talking to humans, and for a good while we will be interacting with humans, and humans will still be the most relevant piece of whatever puzzle we're dealing with, right? So soft skills for sure. But again, I think this is where balance and combination have a good place, right? People have to be able to work with different people, work in different environments, but they have to understand that there's a new language that's being used, which is the ability to work with software, the ability to work with artificial intelligence. So being able to combine those is very, very powerful. Backgrounds for those historically were not the same, right? People they used to focus in soft skills were not necessarily the people that enjoyed the most the more analytical approaches. But we have seen, and the startup world has a lot of interesting cases in that sense, right? Founders that not only are able to create interesting technologies or innovative technologies, but are also able to attract people into a common goal, into doing something different. But if I really had to choose one, I would go for the soft skills.
Um, are we still living in a shared economy era? What is the perspective on blockchain? To what degree will we tend to
That's
follow
an
that trend, and how would that affect our students?
disruption. I think we're about to get there. That's a funny thing. And when you ask me about blockchain, right? I mean, this is definitely one of the technologies that would allow for a truly shared digital economy. I think that the initial wave of shared economy that we saw had more to do with economic trends than actual technology. So remember, like the first cases of Uber, Airbnb, and things like that, all of those emerged right after a major global crisis, right? So I think that the key argument there was people didn't have money to afford owning a car. People didn't have the money to afford expensive vacations and things like that, or they had to make money out of property they had. I think technology now is actually going to allow to create real sharing of assets, real sharing of digital assets, right? There's no reason why you can share your Spotify playlist with me or other things that you create and own digitally.
Yeah, that was great. Many thanks for your insightful answers. Personally, I think there's a very important point to consider in regard to the shared economy, which is that social distancing has actually changed its nature. By design, the idea of a shared economy has to do with an ethos that combines strong capitalistic premises with a sort of a post-hip nomadism which supports the idea that we can share stuff like cars and parts of our houses. That's probably something that's not going to surge again anytime soon. So that's something to think about. Thank you again, Moises. That was really great. I really liked talking with you, and it was nicely again. Thank you. Now we're going to talk with Fabrício Presenti. He's a pioneer in the tech space, chairman and CEO at Thrive, which brings artificial intelligence to agribusiness. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Presenti. My question for you is, what are the main efforts, exercises, or philosophical perspectives that a young professional should implement to find his mission, and especially in this new world that's coming about?
Yeah, that's a very important point for the young professionals that they're starting in this entrepreneurship career. They will be exposed to a lot of opportunities, to a lot of very compelling opportunities in terms of not only the financial rewards, but also in terms of the professional rewards that they can have. And especially when you are young, you don't know exactly what is more important in that point in your career. So follow your heart, of course, is very, very important. Something that was very helpful for me, and I am not a young professional anymore, but nevertheless, it helped so much to understand what to accomplish is to have mentors, to have people that you go for, to talk to, and you really trust. And most of all, they ideally don't have any real reward on having some like different path to tell you to follow. So it's really someone that will guide you through something that you will receive as a data point, of course, to process and to make a decision. But this is something important to have in your career. In terms of the efforts that you have to make, definitely is the things that you will leave behind, because you have to choose something. And you never know, and you will never know how it would have been, because if you decide to come back to that point again, it will not be the same point anymore. So it changes everything. So once you make a decision, make a decision. Like this is the thing that you have to go for, and forget about the potential things that you left behind. This is just a decision that you made, and you have to guide your life after that.
Yeah, that was very deep. How to navigate the landscape of the fourth industrial revolution, where disruption is the keyword, especially in this new world.
Yeah, that's a big one. Um, well, first you have to first you have to understand that the word disruption can mean many things, and you can, I like to split innovations and disruption in incremental innovations and disruptive innovations effectively. They're both important. They both bring value. They both bring the world to a new place. And you just have to understand that they take different times. So in order to navigate this disruptive world, you have to first stop and think, okay, am I doing something that is incrementally innovative and I need this set of skills now and is already ready to be developed? Or am I going to something so big as Elon Musk, for example, is the main like name behind this. Like he only tries the big things, the thing that can effectively change the world for good. He doesn't do incremental innovations. And for this set of skills, it's less technical and more mission driven. It's more about, I think this will change the world. How am I going to do that? Nobody knows, because this is changing everything. You are jumping 5 steps ahead. So nobody knows. So you just like do it. And eventually you will fail a lot. You have to be prepared to fail, especially on the second one, which are the disruptive innovation. And fail is so good. Fail is amazing for those making entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I agree with you. Young people, particularly Z generation, complain that they cannot find anything exciting in most companies. How can a company be more appealing to those professionals?
This is a question that the companies they're asking themselves all the time. They are trying to become more and more similar to a startup environment. And for that, they sometimes push too hard and try things that are even kind of silly. Okay, let's put a ping pong table inside the office. Let's bring beer to people on Friday so they can drink. This is not really what is startup is about. A startup is about an environment where you are not free, but you are freer to think and to apply new ideas. And you have really a better decision over the things that are going to drive the company forward. And this is very connected to the young generations. They want to be part of something. Like the older generations, they complain about that. They say, okay, this guy is young and he already wants to own the company and to be the director of the company. Well, you have to understand that this is how they think now. This is not, of course, how it should be. The experience is always important, and you have to put experience in front of the big decisions. But you have to give the young professionals the feeling and not only the feeling, effectively give them the idea that they are driving important decisions inside the company and not only following orders. That's what they are chasing today.
Great. Besides mastering financial and other technical expertise, what are the tasks you suggest managers to get involved with to have companies placed in the wish list of new employees?
Again, a little bit about what I mentioned before, which is allow them to make decisions, allow them to change inside the company, allow them to make incremental innovations that they like to test. And the main concept around startups that changed with the book like Lean Startup maybe 15 years ago, which is about try and fail fast. This is very compelling in startups. It works because you try, fail, change, try, fail, change, try, fail, change. In corporations, it usually takes a long time to try, because even to try, you have the approval of a board of 300 people that they have different ideas. You have to align with 300 people something that you have to do. So what companies should do in order to attract new people, to young people to work for them, allow them to try and fail and success, try, fail and succeed, and this way you can foster an environment where they feel that they are learning more and also being a part of the development of the company.
Yeah, that was just great. That was just great, Fabricio. I totally agree with you. I think that we're at a very special moment in terms of the environmental landscape and the medical landscape, and especially the technology landscape because of the COVID era and also because of the economic crisis, which are obviously totally correlated. I think that startups will gain traction. I think that the world is changing to a sort of a more diverse and digitally driven landscape, and we're going to have many people innovating in the next years with things that we don't even imagine. So I'm totally with you on this. Thank you so much. Now we're going to have with us one of the leading researchers in nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and neuroscience. That's Dr. Nuno Martines. He's an assistant researcher at the University of California at Berkeley. This is an amazing opportunity to better understand the possible impacts of these new technologies in the business world and work relations. It's also a particularly interesting hot topic considering the current situation with the COVID outbreak, which is obviously something that has to do with the brain as it affects the brain. How can artificial intelligence affect the way we use our brain, Professor Nuno? What are the gains we should expect in the next years, and how our students and new professionals can prepare to take advantage of that? These are my simple starting questions to you.
Thank you for having me here, Alvaro. It's a pleasure. Well, artificial intelligence the term artificial intelligence refers to two different terms. You have general artificial intelligence and you have narrow artificial intelligence. At this point in time, what we have seen is a narrow artificial intelligence, a set of algorithms that allow you to beat humans and human thought in specific tasks. For example, playing chess or Jeopardy. That's the most recent advance in artificial intelligence algorithms, where the AI behind the machine allows it to understand human speech, which is a tremendous feature. So when we talk about AI, we talk about narrow AI at this point. Well, the danger is when you reach general artificial intelligence. At that level, we're talking about a machine that's capable of having, human thought or equivalent to human thought at tremendous speeds and with access to all human knowledge in the internet. So the question humanity has to face is, what if general artificial intelligence suddenly emerges or appears? Is this an existential threat for humans? And how can we prepare for it? So the political decision and the decision that researchers have to ponder is, will this happen overnight? Will this happen in a couple of years? And how will humanity prepare for the appearance of general artificial intelligence? It seems that it's a consensus among researchers that this will happen in the next couple of decades. Nobody knows when, but more and more we see narrow AI solving problems that some leading researchers would predict would take decades. And it has happening in a couple of years. So even top AI researchers are being surprised by how fast narrow AI is evolving. So there's a significant danger that the predictions made by worldwide experts is not correct. And if that happens, means that humanity will have to suddenly deal with general artificial intelligence. Okay, Hollywood has been doing a lot of movies with a positive view of it, with the danger side of it. That's what sells more. So typically they go for the problems associated with AI. But What's really important to understand is that there are a lot of benefits with having not just narrow AI, but also general AI. So the question that we have to answer is general AI something we want to have? And is something we can decide to have, or something that will necessarily happen? And if it will necessarily happen, how can we prepare ourselves?
Thank you, Professor Nuno. These perspectives you're describing will impact different areas of the human life, including business relations. Now, my question is, in your opinion, how is it going to affect the markets?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of business opportunities around this matter. The most well-known recently is Neuralink from Elon Musk. So in this space, there's a lot of work to be done, but preliminary applications are happening right now. And these applications are not just Elon Musk's work, but there's a lot of work around the world, a lot of research work that's reaching a level where you can make a business around those tools. It's, Elon Musk is the most well-known. It's the most featured in the media, probably, with more impact, but many others are bringing these technologies into the market, and this is happening right now.
Any tips for business students here?
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurs have a tremendous role in making this technology a reality. So they have a big opportunity in the field. So if for them, my message is you have to persist. It's about persistence. It's not, again, it's not how hard you can work. It's how hard you can fail, how many times you can fail and get up and continue with the same motivation you had when you started it.
Thank you very much for your contribution to our debate. It was really wonderful. One of the consequences of the COVID-19 epidemics is the speed of adoption of AI-based service to do all sorts of tasks, including and beyond disease. This brings about a much wider discussion on how to create an ethical and socially fair environment for these technologies to spread. Professor Nuno Martines is dedicated to what seems to me as one of the areas where AI is intrinsically in line with society's best interest, which is the application to brain disorders. World War II was a terrible period for humanity. Some of the worst atrocities of all time were conducted in the period, and evil technology has been built. At the same time, it was a period that fostered radical innovation that defined the world that we live today. And as an example of that, we have the Turing machine, the universal computing system which defines what all digital computers do to date. The COVID era is also speeding innovation under pain. An example of that is vaccine development, and another is AI. I'm eager to see where this is going to take us. Well, now we're going to have a 1 minute break, and then we will start our question and answer session. See you all again in a minute. Hello everyone, I'm back for our Q&A session, which is an opportunity to interact with those that are live here in our symposium. The first question comes from Pakistan. Mr. Gul Sanubar asks, as the world shifts to digital platforms, being confined in one place without having physical interaction will have impacts on our mental health. So what would be the alternatives to cope with that? That's a great question. I think that the first thing we need to consider is that we are social animals. Social cognition is one of the main dimensions, cognitive dimensions of our brains, and empathy is something that we live for. So even though we cannot touch people, it's very important to keep a contact and a virtual contact with them. And I think that one thing that we should always bear in mind is that the elderly are the ones suffering the most. So we need to look to our fathers, mothers, grandparents, everyone that's been isolated and needs attachment. This is the first thing that we should bear in mind. A second thing is couples should lower their expectations and never try to correct behaviors one another at this moment. This is not a good moment for that. This is a moment where we need to find some harmony inside our places. A final thing that we need to consider is about jobs. It's hard to work to home office because there are too many distractions going on. So you need to set an organized environment in your house, and you need to keep on with focus on your schedules. That will make it much easier to you. Thank you. Well, the second question we have now comes from the Philippines. Ms. Hikamai Kelly-Wan asks, what is the meaning of digital transformation? Well, that's a hard one. Digital transformation can mean several things. The more broad idea is about having analogic business being digitalized, which means creating websites, creating some innovation in the areas of infrastructure, of IT infrastructure, so on and so forth. But actually, it is much more than that. Digital innovation is about considering that the world each time more established around relations that are not physical, and that basically the abstract part of business are more important than the physical parts of the business. This is the idea. So once we grasp this idea, we also grasp the perspective that we are in the information era, which is kind of different from what people learn in school about, industrial revolutions and things like that. We're in an era where knowledge values the most, and this is all about digital transformation. Okay, now our next question comes from Ms. Martina Ines Civale Velez from Argentina. How will the new way of working affect emerging economies? Well, my opinion is that emerging economies are not in a comfortable position with this, especially because you need to have a digitalized population to work remotely. One thing that we see in Latin America and many Africa and many other parts of the world is that a significant part of the population has no internet. Part of the population also has no computer, and many people work in jobs that cannot be transposed to digital environments. So these places suffer the most. I don't think that there is an easy solution to that. What I think is important is that governments and society as a whole understand that these people need to be supported. That's a mission to live for. Thank you. Okay, so we're receiving live questions, lots of live questions, and thank you for your participation. I will try to answer as many as possible, but you will still be able to interact with us by joining the case study competition, okay? The next question comes from Colombia. Mr. Hanno Carstedes asks, it is estimated that automation will end most of the current jobs, but new technologies bring with them new jobs. the US Department of Statistics showed that the relation between economic growth and job creation has been separated. What is the future path that people should follow in choosing an economic sector to work on? Well, my opinion is that you should not go by these trends. Forget the statistics, at least in the start, forget about that. Try to be aligned with your heart. If you try to do something in life that you don't like and that you don't have the natural tendencies toward, you're gonna fail. So this is the first thing. Second thing is, don't believe the hype. Okay, it is a fact that things are changing, but some of the change that people thought would happen in 5 years or 10 years, about a decade ago, are now being projected for another decade. So take light, be light with that. And finally, I think that one of the answers is try to understand that digital transformation, which is the greatest trend here, is all about information. So try to learn stuff, try to be on the multidisciplinary side of the game, and that will help you out no matter what specific profession you select. Thank you. So Julia, please read for us the questions that are coming live.
Sure, we have plenty of questions today. And for starters, we have a question by Reese Surabasquez. And the question is, where should businesses start with digital transformation?
That depends, but I would say that in general, business that don't have a website should create one. There are different manners of doing that. Some of them are very cheap and simple, and that's something to start with. Another thing that it's very important is to have some presence in social media. I think that business that don't invest in that are losing opportunities, especially in light of social distancing. Now, for business that already have the basics, I think that then we can apply what I said before, which is that social transformation is all about information. So try to be connected, continuously connected to the trends in your area. So try to advance a little bit further and before the competition to take advantage of new trends which tend to impact and bring customers. That's my idea.
The next question is by Daniela Ataide Buscarini. And her question is the home office beneficial for the companies? And are they tending to adopt it from now on? Or is the physical communication essential?
Well, that's a great one. I wrote an article piece for Wall, it's a Brazilian venue, which I write to recently about that. And my opinion is that it's more or less, it tends to be good in a general sense because it's cheaper and it's sometimes faster. But on the other side, there is this fact that the eye contact and the personal physical contact it tends to bring something else to the table, which is not something we can reproduce remotely. So I don't think that remote working is simply good to companies or bad. It's good on one side and bad on the other side. Moreover, I think that some companies benefit more than others. For instance, if companies that already have a digital culture tend to benefit more, companies that don't tend to thrive. Now, one last thing that we should consider is that workers not always have the conditions to work from home. So one thing is to deal with this like an exception, like for 2 months or 5 months, maybe a year. But when we look for a whole career inside a house, I don't think that that's something that people want. So I don't think that business that will insist in not offering the possibilities for those that are interested to be in a special environment to work will actually take advantage of the situation when we compare it to business that will offer this and also the opportunity for workers to be at home.
All right, that's great, Alvaro. Our next question is from Alexandra Garces Garcia. And her question is, how will consumer patterns change when the quarantine ends? How will market trends change?
Well, one thing has to do with the shared economy, in my opinion, something that was discussed with Moises, who knows a lot about this. And I think that we were moving to a world of shared stuff, and this is going to change. So companies that are based on sharing are not more, they're not more in the head of innovation. So I think that people are getting more gregarious. They're getting more conservative. They're trying to be isolated for obvious reasons, and I think this is gonna go beyond the moment. So this technology trend will be impact. Another thing is that some digital services are already making a local revolution in markets. One is video conferencing, another is AI, another is biotech developments in many different sub areas. Not only vaccines, which are obviously the most famous at this time, but this is all going to change, and the relative importance of these sectors in the economy will increase. Pretty much that.
Our last and final question is from Konate Siddiqui. What are the key barriers that usually block the path to digital transformation?
The first is capital. Okay, we need to be straight about this. It's all about investment. If you can't invest, then you have a problem. So something that I always think about when I see companies, small business that are totally analogic and could take so much advantage of having at least a website. I understand that this is not just a wanting matter; it's something that goes beyond. But there is also something about the culture of a company. Fact is that IT is a sector and a division of a company that needs organized thought. So chaotic environments are not good for digital transformation. Digital processes are processes, so they need to be well established, well validated. They need to have a paradigm behind to work well. So that's the second one. And finally, I think that it has lots to do with the workers' skills. I think that sometimes there is a source of available trained workers, and sometimes there isn't. And many countries face this problem, especially countries where English is not it's not adopted by it's not a second language for most people. People simply don't have a second language, as mostly everything in IT is in English. So that's something as well to consider. Okay, so thank you very much for being with us. See you again tomorrow here at the America Business Channel. See you then. Thank you.